A meteor, life can travel virtually anywhere, and a good deal of it lands on planet Earth. But just as we explore the genetic package of alien life, visitors from space are routinely examining human specimens, abducting men, women, and children in order to conduct disturbing biological experiments.
Very, very few people who've had the experience are willing to talk about it publicly. There is such a kind of ridicule factor.
Bud Hopkins, researcher and author of the best-selling book Intruders, is America's leading investigator into the alien abduction phenomenon, and largely responsible for bringing the astonishing situation to the nation's attention.
The most important thing about this, I think, in studying it, is to realize that there are very distinct patterns. This is not just a box full of crazy experiences which are mutually contradictory. The patterns start this way. People are abducted first in childhood.
When I go back into my memory, I don't know a day without them.
And they are then re-abducted over many, many, many years.
When I saw this light on the freeway, my first reaction was, oh my God, not again.
I grabbed the side of my bed like, no, you're not gonna get away with this. You're not gonna get away with it this time.
Then I feel lifted off of the bed, and the next thing that I remember is being on a table or a bench and these beings surrounding me.
Samples are taken from the skin. There are very distinct scars that result from these biopsies, whatever we want to call them.
I have a scar on my hand. It seems to be a triangle shape that's a half an inch by half an inch if you were to measure it.
They were just red and blistery and kind of in a large equilateral triangle on each foot.
The basic, most common mark is what we call a scoop mark. It's a circular depression, as if the aliens have used a little tool and removed a layer of cells.
On my upper left inner thigh, I have two marks. There's a series of two. They're about 1/8 of an inch deep and about 1/4 inch in diameter that people call scoop marks, for lack of a better term.
Often an object is inserted in the nostril or behind the eyeball or in the ear, which we believe to be implants.
On my shin, between my ankle and my knee, were two puncture marks. In fact, I hesitate to call them that because they were larger and deeper. They were like two holes drilled vertically along my shin into my leg. And that frightened me deeply because I have no idea how those got there. I could only speculate as to why they were doing that, although I do know that, bone marrow contains genetic material, blood.
They're interested in who you are genetically.
They seem to be desperate for our genetic material, our DNA, our particular genetic makeup, as if they have reached some point of, let's say, some point of no return in their evolutionary development, and they need to revivify themselves through something they can get from us, a more primitive and perhaps more robust species. People generally describe one particular type of figure as the basic alien type, which is a small figure, 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, huge head, huge black eyes, hairless, grayish-white skin, just a tiny slit for a mouth that doesn't move, and so forth. I'd say that accounts for about 85% of the descriptions.
There's some that are very, they talk about the reptilian being like sexually aggressive, and then there's some that look like praying mantis that are very mean and very violent.
It is a violation of your body. It's a violation of your space. They don't ask permission. They take you. On this earth, when you are raped, when you are mugged, even if you don't see that person that is doing you bodily harm, you have somewhere to go. You can go to the police and at least give a report whether they do something or not. You have somewhere to go. But in this case, you have no one to talk to. You have no one to say, this has happened to me. I've been so violated. You don't even know. And you're not ready for this.
My love life went to hell. My schooling went to hell. Everything went to hell.
And it's terrifying, it's not fun, it ruins your life because you have nowhere to go.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. up above the world so high like a diamond in the sky. Makes me want to cry.
Part of the trauma involved in this is our government telling us that these objects don't exist. And I seem, and other members of my family, and other people seem to have these experiences. It makes you doubt your sanity.
The range of people who have had abductions around the world, because it is a global phenomenon, is just, it's a total range. I've worked with people who are of Oriental backgrounds, African-American background, Hispanics. I've worked with one NASA scientist, a research scientist, who is an abductee, a police lieutenant from the South, doctors, lawyers. I mean, I've had, incidentally, 7 psychiatrists come to me because of their own personal abduction experiences. The phenomenon affects people from all walks of life.
And it has a dramatic effect on families. Debbie and Terry know firsthand. Both are ongoing abductees with deep concerns about the chilling connections between aliens and their children.
I thought this was mental illness. Then my son started speaking about little airmen coming into his room and taking us up, and there was even one point where he said, "They took blood out of you, Mama." He wanted guarding all the time. He wouldn't go to bed at night unless I slept with him. He was angry. And the other thing is he started setting traps. One night my husband came home from work and there's these little colored stones all over the garage. And Dale, my husband, said, "What is this for?" And he says, "Well, this is when the airmen come, they slip and fall on their butts."
The interesting thing about children is a sort of innocence about their perceptions. I will present these cards of different heads, and there's Santa Claus, Batman, policeman, a clown, Ninja Turtle, an alien. What we do is to see how the child responds when we get to the alien face, and it can be extremely moving, because I've seen children just collapse when they see the drawing of the alien, crying, hugging their fathers or their mothers in terror.
Well, she was 4 years old, and she was past bedwetting and all of that behavior. She was beyond that, and she'd never wet her bed. And when we moved to Banning, she started having nightmares every night and wetting her bed. And a couple of weeks ago, she had a bunch of scratches on her face, and she didn't have them when she went to bed. I said, "What happened?" And it was funny. The only thing I could get out of her was that she asked me, "Do aliens hurt you?" And I went, "What?"
And a woman told me, for instance, that her little girl, when she was first able to talk, would tell her about these nightmares of what she called the bugs coming in the room. And they were big bugs with big eyes. And again, there were some physical marks, all the surrounding evidence suggesting abductions. At one point, the mother, a few years later, was getting out of the car with her daughter at a shopping mall, and the Goodyear blimp was coming over. And the little child said, "Mommy, look, don't you remember when you and I were up in that thing with the bugs?"
The last time I had a session, in that session I actually saw Lexi being escorted by 2 small grays. And it was very upsetting to me. I could not handle the fact that my daughter was being subjected to something that I had no control over. And when I think you have no control over something, that you're so helpless, it's like your child's drowning or something, and you can't save them.
I feel like I'm going to go crazy because there isn't anything I could do for my son.
I know.
One of the most interesting things, too, from a child's point of view, has to do with the fact that communication is telepathic. One little boy drew on some drawings he'd made for me of the aliens. He put on the side of the head, each alien head, a gigantic ear, just one. And his mother said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, Mommy, I know they don't have ears, but I put that there because, you know, they can hear everything you're thinking."